authoritative and powerful voices in agricultural economics in the country. So listen to him on his favorite topic. Uh, is it there? Up? No. Yaru, sir, please, you can start straight away from here.
All right. Thank you very much, Nandakumar ji, and thanks Ajay Jhakar Saab for inviting me. Pleasure to share my thoughts on the subject of subsidies, free trade. अभी वार्म अप तो होने दो. Subsidies, free trade, and regulation of a food system. Let me start with what is expected of the regulator. When you are looking at the food system, it is not just the production part. Normally we think, oh, agriculture means only production. Ultimately, production is for the stomach. So it has to reach all the way to the consumer. And there are a lot of things in between the producer and the consumer. Therefore, I'm going to talk a little bit on both ends of the spectrum and something in between. First job of a regulator is to ensure what is being produced is safe to eat. Right? We don't want to consume things which are dangerous and die. That's the food safety part. But then the second thing for the government as such is to produce in a manner that it does not damage the basic resource of this planet. What is the basic resource of this planet? The soil, the water, the air that we are breathing, and also biodiversity. Are we producing enough to feed ourselves? Yes, we are producing enough to feed ourselves. So one victory that we have done is we have achieved so-called food security in terms of availability of food. There are no long queues and there are no food riots in that sense, which at our young age, when we used to stand for 2 hours in the queue to get 2 liters of milk or ration shops, all those things, I think that is a victory we have already achieved. But have we produced enough nutritious food, and what is happening in the production basket? And then I'll come down to the consumption side story. That's where the problem is. Our production basket, by the way, when we are producing, look at this. China is one of the biggest net importers of food in the world. Biggest. Many people may not know US is also a net importer of food. Despite the fact it is one of the largest exporter, but it imports even more. Okay? India is one country, large country, which is a net exporter of agriculture. Net exporter of agriculture, of the 3 big ones. But production is hugely skewed in favor of certain crops. Look at rice, for example. Rice is our first crop. The latest estimates show we are producing rice on about 51 million hectares. The area under rice has been going up. 150 million tons this year is likely to be the production of rice. We are the largest exporter of rice in the world. Out of a global market of 61 million tons of rice, India is exporting 20 million tons plus. And it is bringing down the global prices to our own level. If you think we are very competitive and that's why we are the largest exporter of rice, please note that every hectare of rice in Punjab has a hidden subsidy of 39,000 rupees per hectare. Power subsidy and fertilizer subsidy. That's what the topic is subsidies. So I want to dwell on that a little bit. Power subsidy is given by the state and fertilizer subsidy is given by the center. In a central budget of 51 lakh crores, 24-25, almost 2 lakh crores is going to be the fertilizer subsidy. They under budgeted at 1.6, it's going to be 2 lakh crores. The food subsidy on the other end, which is the consumer part, was 2.05, that's going to be 2.25 lakh crores. So the two together, minimum is 4 lakh crores every year, on an average. These are two ends of the spectrum, the producer side and consumer side. So let me focus first on the producer side. What is the job of the regulator? Giving subsidy to promote something is not a bad thing. Today we need perhaps subsidies on EVs to get some better breathing space in this. Subsidy on fertilizers, which was introduced, perhaps was right at that time when we didn't have enough food to eat. It was introduced first time in 77, retention price scheme, and after that it kept on increasing. And today, what this fertilizer subsidy is doing, our urea, which is the main chunk of the subsidy, 2/3 of the subsidy is on urea, 85 to 90% subsidy is on urea. So literally, a thing of 100 rupees you are selling at 15 rupees. When you are throwing urea in the field, in the granular form, if those who have seen the urea, plant is consuming not more than 35 to 40%. Only 35 to 40%. Rest is going in the environment as nitrous oxide. Nitrous oxide is 273 times the carbon dioxide. The input-output table of India shows that 22% of fertilizer actually doesn't reach agriculture. It is going to plywood industry, glass industry, it is going to Nepal and maybe even to Bangladesh because it is so cheap. All the world over, fertilizer prices would be between $300 to $400 a ton. In India, it is at $60, $70 a ton. That's the story. So you have a massive problem in terms of greenhouse gas emission, massive diversion taking place, and then if it leaches into the groundwater, it has high nitrate content, because of which I did not know earlier when I was studying only the food subsidy or fertilizer subsidy, but when I started studying health, then I came to know thyroid, diabetes and even cancer is caused by high nitrate content. So I'm in touch with ICMR that can we do proper studies on this particular thing and look at what is happening. So what this subsidy on one end of the spectrum, because this is the biggest subsidy, 2 lakh crores. The total budget of Ministry of Agriculture is 1.37 lakh crores. If you add the fisheries and the animal husbandry, 1.49 lakh crores. And this fertilizer subsidy, which does not come under the Ministry of Agriculture, it rests with Ministry of Chemicals and Fertilizers, is more than the entire budget of agriculture. And they have nothing to do with farmers. They deal only with the industry. And the cost of the industry, you know, it is never made public. What is the cost and the retention prices on top of that? So there is a lot to say what needs to be done in terms of transparency. Our estimates are these 2 lakh crores. If you streamline it and if you have the political will and you can do it, give me 6 months and we can fix it. But political will is a different animal. Operationally, it's a challenge, but you can do it. And the saving will be minimum 40,000 crores a year, because 22% doesn't go to agriculture. It is going somewhere else. So that diversion. And when you correct that, if you give directly to the farmers the money, I'm not saying abolish fertilizer subsidy, I'm saying change the form in which you are giving. don't give it such high price subsidy, give it as income support to the farmer and let the prices be determined by market forces. What will happen? The urea prices will jump 4-5 times, P and K prices will go marginally up, but the ratio of NPK, which is the biggest problem in this country, although from state to state it has to differ, but overall we say 4:2:1 should be the ratio. In Punjab it is like 20:5:0 because they don't apply. So it's totally distorted. The net result of that is that earlier when you used to apply 1 kilogram of fertilizers, you used to get more than 10 kilograms of grain. And today when you apply the same 1 kilogram of fertilizers, you get only 2.2 kilograms of grain. So the crop response ratio has dramatically declined. That means efficiency of the fertilizers, because of wrong subsidy format, you have messed up the environment, you have messed up. Then he produces so much rice. Water table in Punjab for the last 20 years is going down by 1.5 feet every year. This is central groundwater data, not my data. 1.5 feet. This is a real hotspot of the global map. And then the water contamination that I told you about. So you have air being diluted, totally polluted. You have water being, all the quality of water is going down, the table is going down, and on top of that, when you harvest and then you do the parali burning, your soils have become dead because all the microbial activity in the soil is finished. These are dead soils of Punjab and Haryana because the nature gives microbes to rejuvenate those soils. When you burn those fields, it's gone. Then you need more and more of fertilizers, urea, to get the same output. So you are not letting the nature. So now it's not an issue of adaptation or mitigation, adapting to climate change. You need a regenerative agriculture into the system. You have damaged it so much. The Mother Earth, the soil is gone, the water is going down, the air is so polluted, and biodiversity in Punjab, Haryana, it's only wheat, rice. It's all gone. So we are playing with nature, whether it is a sustainable model of development. So what the regulation of the food has to do is to produce more with less. And that is where the precision agriculture has to come. That's where the AI has to come. That's where all the new techniques have to come, which are developed in the Western world. If we can do it, we can easily produce. China produces 145 million tons of rice from 29 million hectares of land. We are producing 150 million tons this year from 51 million hectares of land. So 3 tons per hectare, our productivity, their productivity is 5 tons per hectare. They can do it, why can't we do it given the same technologies? So we need to reduce the area. Subsidy on the consumer end, another 2,25,000 crores. Interestingly, farmers say this fertilizer subsidy is not to me because when you give me this subsidy, my MSP you reduce because the costing is lower. Therefore, even this fertilizer subsidy is to the consumer. And we keep on saying we are giving free food to more than 800 million people. And then we say our poverty has come down to, Niti says 11% and World Bank now says 5-6% and all that. And then we want to give free food to 60% of the people, 58% today about. How much? Free. Vajpayee government had this formula that those who are Antodaya, who are extremely poor, they should get free. But then those who are BPL, below poverty line, they should pay at least 50% of the MSP. And those who are APL, I think it was your time at that time. So you can control the fiscal health of the budget, how much it is. I think 80% of the resources that are going in agri-food space are going in the form of subsidies. And what is the most powerful way, and that is what the regulation of the food system as an economist would be, where do you get the maximum bang for the buck that you allocate? And that is in agriculture R&D. If you spend $1 billion in agriculture R&D, there is ample research we have done. The return is almost 10 times compared to the same money that is being thrown as subsidy. Fertilizer subsidy versus agriculture R&D, the ratio is less than 1 in fertilizer subsidy and almost 10 from agriculture research and development. But how much do we allocate? 10,000 crores. Only for the entire ICRIER budget is 10,000 crores. One company called Bayer, if there is a representative of Bayer here, spends $1.7 billion every year on agriculture research. $1.7 billion every year. And we spend almost $1.1 billion for the entire country for all the crops. So if we can shift from doles to development, this transition if we can make, then I think we can do a great job. Nice to see Ramesh Chand here, if he can gather the guts to reform the fertilizer subsidy. We were saying that the marginal rate of return on fertilizer subsidy versus agriculture R&D, it's a ratio of 1:10. And if we can change that, otherwise you are polluting your environment, you are polluting your water, you are polluting your, damaging your soils and all that. And then of course on the consumer side, if you can rationalize somewhat, then we will have enough money to grow. I'm sure Ramesh is very happy we are growing at 4% plus now this year, hopefully, in agriculture. But this country can even grow much faster. The challenge is growth is not the only solution. Are we doing green growth? Are we doing sustainable growth? That is the issue that we need to ask ourselves. And the nature in which we are giving this fertilizer subsidy or free power is not the... Now, what is the solution on that front? And that links me to trade. Trade, as I said, we are still a net exporter of agriculture produce. China is a huge biggest net importer, and then even US is a net importer. Well, what is our biggest export? Rice. 20 million tons, about $12 billion, and that's exporting water. Even if you take, estimates are 3,000 to 5,000 liters of water is needed for irrigation for 1 kilogram of rice. Even if 50% percolates back to the groundwater, 2,000 liters gone per kilogram of rice. 20 million tons means 40 billion cubic meters of water you have exported. And India is not a very water-rich country. So it's basically exporting water. And we don't have a natural comparative advantage in rice. It is all this subsidy on free power and free. So we suggested, and then we are importing. We are importing edible oil, which is the biggest item, and we are importing pulses. Pulses are more nutritious, much more, and they are nitrogen fixing. So they don't need that fertilizer, they don't need that water. Instead of 22 irrigations, only 2-3 irrigations would do here. We worked it out in Punjab. The subsidy per hectare of rice is 39,000 rupees from power and fertilizers. If you give 35,000 rupees for pulse growers who shift from rice to this, at least for 5 years, because your savings will be permanent. Just announcing for 1 year, nobody is going to shift because next year again his profitability falls. Then there is hope that there is a chance that you can have more crop diversity, you can have more nutritious crop, you can think of the soil becoming better, you can think of your groundwater not going down as much. So when we talk about regulating the food system, food safety, as I said in the beginning, is important, but also more important is how do you produce and who is consuming, at what price they are consuming. Anything that is being given free, I can give you how farmers who are growing rice are getting free rice and then they sell it at 15 rupees, 20 rupees in the open market. It's a scam going on. There is a lot of short circuiting. The same. First they will give everything to the government and then they will receive everything from the government back. There is a huge inefficiency. The two together, fertilizer subsidy and food subsidy, if you have the political guts to streamline this, and they can be streamlined, the net saving will be 70 to 80,000 crores every year. 40,000 from here, 40,000 from here. And this 70 to 80,000 crores, if you put in rural infrastructure and irrigation and precision agriculture, Indian agriculture will be flying on a sustainable basis. Farmers' income can increase, and we need to shift more towards high-value agriculture, fruits, vegetables, poultry, fishery, all those things, which are growing already. Fishery is growing almost at 8% per annum. So those are the sectors now. If we want incomes to increase of the farmers, it is not going to be from paddy or wheat or even millets. The productivity isn't that great. And rice is a killer. I think we need to take note of that. Operationally, it can be done. The tools are there. There are some difficulties how to identify the tenant, farmer, and there, but it can be solved. It can be fixed. It's not unsurmountable problem. You let me know the timing.
Take another 2 minutes.
2 minutes. Okay.
5 minutes.
Yeah.
Then questions.
Yeah. Okay. So on the trade front, broadly, free trade. Nowhere in the world there is totally free trade. Everywhere there are some distortions or the others in the name of either food safety. Non-tariff barriers are there. The Western world would not like to have everything that you can throw there. Pesticide residues or some other things will come up. But all said and done, I think we have made inroads. Our biggest export to US is shrimps. And shrimps, the SPS standards that are needed for shrimps have to be very stringent. And if we can succeed in that, and grapes we are exporting to Europe. So overall, I think we have done pretty well on the exports front, but we have problems on our own. The moment we see our prices going up, we put an export ban. Onion prices go up, put an export ban. Russia-Ukraine war started, put a ban on rice exports and wheat exports. Wheat exports still literally banned. Now, when you put these export bans, and then on top of that, you don't allow the private sector to hold stocks. And today, the rice stocks with FCI are almost 4 times the buffer stock norm. 4 times. And they are throwing in the open market. It costs them 42 rupees a kg, economic cost. They sell in the open market at 29, 30 rupees a kg, dumping literally in your own country, and then give it to the ethanol plants, 5 million tons, at 23 rupees a kg. What's happening in this country? 42 rupees thing being sold in the open market at 29, 30 rupees, and to the ethanol plants at 23 rupees. So first you increase the cost, and then you dump it in your own country. Massive inefficiency in the food system. So if we have to reform on both ends, production side as well as on consumer side, there is high need, and massive potential savings are in the offing. On the trade, we are net exporters. We are doing pretty fine. So far, so good. The last thing I would say is nutrition, because it's not just the sustainability of water or soil or biodiversity, etc. It is also what you are producing. Now, what is happening is, over time, because of our fertilizer policy, the zinc use in our soil, our soils have become deficient in zinc. As a result, our wheat and rice have become deficient in zinc. Deficiency of zinc in your basic staples causes stunting amongst children. So the whole paradigm shift has to be from food security to nutritional security. And unless we try to price that well and tune all the policies on the production side or on the consumption side for more nutritious food, for example, on consumer side, instead of giving just wheat and rice, if you give food coupons with 20 commodities, whether he wants to take milk or anda or pulses or oil seeds or millets, let them buy that. So give a choice, an option to them. And so there are things which can be done on both ends of the spectrum, potential large savings, both in terms of your natural resources of soil, water, air, biodiversity, and also nutrition. So the challenge of tomorrow is not food security, but nutritional security, and also in a sustainable manner. So how do we achieve that? The technologies are there of precision farming, and unless we adopt those technologies, we will not be in a sustainable position. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Thank you, Ashok. As usual, I think I learned a lot. And of course, very thoughtful, somewhat provocative statements. So I'll open up for questions, Dr. Ratin Roy. In fact, I must tell you that Dr. Ramesh Chand told me that he will come back to listen to you. So he has come back.
So, in the morning when I was speaking, I was talking about the politics of all this, which you have put into political will. But I want to know from your experience, and actually from you also, sir, this is what you're saying is actually potentially politically sellable. But I haven't found a single politician in this country or political party or political force which is willing to explicitly sell it. What are the vested interests in this system that are so bipartisan that prevent this political impetus? Because civil servants won't do it. They have to sort of obey orders, go on fight. So what is it? State government mein nahi milta hai, center mein nahi milta hai. People are aware of it. I mean, Manpreet Badal was saying in the morning, told me that, Bhatinda mein woot pehle chalte the, ab nahi chalte, which is a very nice summary of what you're saying. So everybody knows all that, but they seem to be trapped in this kind of bad Indian joint family syndrome. You know what you have to change, but you can't change it. So what is it in your view?
Well, two things. On the fertilizer front, let me spell out two problems. One, because I have been on this for quite some time, and we were very close to. And then suddenly it happens. And then they find that if you dismantle the present system and give it directly to the farmer, two problems come. One, the tenant farmer, because at present you do not know who are the tenant farmers. So you need at least 6 months, 1 year lead time to identify who are your real farmers. It can be done. I can go into the details how to do it, but it can be done. Second thing, where the problem comes, those who are diverting fertilizers, they are gaining a lot. It's a 40,000 crore business. 40,000 crore, somebody is gaining, not the farmers. It's not going to agriculture. So there is a resistance. And I'm sorry to say this, industry knows this. And money may be a part of this. Okay? So there is a resistance group within that. So that's where the opposition. On the consumer subsidy, I personally gave the presentation to the Prime Minister. And he said, ये तो करना ही है. And then we waited. अभी हो जाएगा, ये तो मजा आ गया. And then suddenly someone comes to the PM कि भाई ये आप कैश ट्रांसफर कर दोगे या ये कर दोगे तो हमारी दुकान कैसे चलेगी? Because in our report we had pointed out on the basis of 2011 data, 46% was the leakage. 46% leakage. So उन्होंने कहा ये तो लीकेज बहुत ज़्यादा है. And you know how many are these fair price shops? 5,50,000.
Oh,
And some very well connected people are heading that. So when the PM said, भाई इतना लीकेज है क्या करना है इसका? तो ठीक है आप लीकेज बंद करना चाहते हैं पॉस मशीन्स लगा दीजिए. तो फिंगरप्रिंटिंग हो गई, देख लिया, उससे लीकेज has come down, but it has not disappeared. The issue is, can wheat and rice solve the nutritional problem? Right? So we have to graduate now from basic food security to nutritional security. So that's where we are thinking that if you give food coupons and create more nutrition hubs where instead of just wheat and rice, these fair price shops can be multi-commodity hubs and more nutrition. And you can give them a support to create a new brand of fair price shops. So some spade work is being done on those, whether it is feasible or not. But resistance came from fair price shops. And after this I'll tell you who were the people involved. But that's where, in the political economy, it's a game of those who are going to lose, they will go on the rooftop and shout. Those who are going to gain, first they are not sure whether what will be the gain, kya hoga, kya nahi hoga, so they keep quiet. So you have to sell it very well in advance. कि मैं ये लीकेजेस बंद कर रहा हूँ और उसका बेनिफिट आपको जाना चाहिए. फर्टिलाइजर 40,000 crore is not going to agriculture. Is it a small? It's an annual scam. Annual scam. 40,000 crores not reaching the farmers. अब उसको ठीक करने के लिए how do you sell? That's the political art. And nobody else is a better marketeer than the Prime Minister himself. So if he takes it up at a high priority and he puts up his team that इसको ठीक करना है, and then how to sell it, he knows it. It can be done, but the potential gains are huge.
Okay. Yeah. Please introduce yourself.
Hello, I am Harinder. I am a PhD student at Center for Social Medicine and Community Health at JNU. Sir, you repeatedly talked about nutrition security. Yet that is very valid, and I also read your articles where you, and even here also you have talked everything about data, about sources. So I just want to know, like, what is your parameter of judging the food security? Like, you are again and again saying that we have reached to food security. So what is it that exactly according to you is food security? Is it just about per capita availability of food, or it has something related with the delivery? Second question is about you are saying that diversification of crops, and we are again you are putting your argument of free trade. So recently in this year in Punjab has already reached this paddy procurement target, but the shocking concern is that this time the production was very less. So the reason why they have reached their procurement target is that paddy has also arrived from the nearby states.
बिहार से आती है.
Yeah, and the reason.
Yeah. What is the question?
My question is that what is the mechanism, like why the main reason why the procurement is high because of MSP in the Punjab. So I want to ask, like, why is not they are getting good prices in Bihar or even Rajasthan?
Okay. Yeah. You want to answer that? Or?
पहला आपका पार्ट है न्यूट्रिशन. What is the measure of nutrition?
Food security.
फूड सिक्योरिटी अवेलेबिलिटी तो हो गई, इकोनॉमिक एक्सेस भी आपने दे दी, फ्री दे रहे हो 800 मिलियन को, इससे ज़्यादा इकोनॉमिक एक्सेस और क्या दोगे हैं? फूड सेफ्टी का क्वेश्चन है, और अल्टीमेटली दैट फूड इज नॉट फॉर filling your stomach but giving you nutrition. Our wheat and rice are 30% less zinc than they used to be. So you may be consuming more quantity, but you are not consuming enough nutrition. And then you have to graduate from wheat and rice to more nutritious food, pulses hai, milk hai, anda hai. Unless you go in that direction, the prices are very high and volatile of vegetables you look at. They can go up by 50%, they can come down by 50%. The value chains are missing. The farmer is getting 1/3 of what the consumer is paying. So you need to fix all those value chains, and that's where the investments are needed. But you have to think in terms of better nutrition. 35% of your children below the age of 5 are stunted. Isse zyada, you're worse than African countries, several African countries, not one or two. If that is the future of this country, I don't know what this growth is all about. Second question, despite lower output, Punjab has been able to meet its procurement target. I recall my days in the government. The first state I visited was Bihar. And when I went inside the village, I asked them, "Ye bahar rakho, kaun hai, kaun nahi, we'll go as unknown people." So bechoge haan. So it was 1150, the MSP at that time, and he said 950 pe utha lo paddy. तो मैंने कहा न्यूनतम समर्थन मूल्य है, आपको पता है? कहते कहाँ है वो, कहाँ मिलता है, हमें तो मिलता नहीं, कहाँ है? एंड देन ही सेड, हाँ अगर हम रेलवे स्टेशन पे ले जाएं और अच्छी तरह से साफ करके बोरी में बंद करें तो 1025 मिलता है। मैंने कहा रेलवे स्टेशन पे प्रोक्योरमेंट बूथ बना है, क्या बना है? कहते नहीं नहीं, वहाँ से रेल भर के जा रही है पंजाब में, बिकेगा पंजाब में, और पूरा सिस्टम बना हुआ है। देन आई टॉक टू द फूड मिनिस्टर ऑफ पंजाब, कहता हाँ हमें पता है, आता है जी सदके जो मर्जी आए, बिकॉज दे यूज्ड टू चार्ज 14.5% टैक्स ऑन एवरी ग्रेन दैट इज गिवन बाय द कमीशन एजेंट्स टू द प्रोक्योरमेंट एजेंसी. 14.5%. Nowadays it's 8.5%, I think.
Reduced.
So after GST some correction was made. तो कहता है हमें 5,000 करोड़ मिल जाता है, और 5,000 करोड़ हम फ्री इलेक्ट्रिसिटी देते हैं, उसका सारा वोट हमारा और पैसा सरकार का, सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट का. दिस इज द पॉलिटिकल इकोनॉमी यू वर आस्किंग. So I took up this matter with the Prime Minister at that time. And he said, Ashok, you know, it's a state subject, how much we can interfere in this? My opinion, then why I'm advising you, I should go to Akalis and say कि 25% टैक्स लगाओ, कि आपके बिना तो PDS रन नहीं हो सकता. So there is a huge need. You need to sit down with the states, because states would be losing that money, and then you have to say, okay, for 5 years we will compensate you. But I mean basic wheat and rice पे even today 8.5% tax, when you are talking GST 5% कर दिया, ये कर दिया. What are we doing?
Sir, may I ask Gulati ji, cash coupons देने वाले हैं या आप actually quantity of 14 items that you are
No quantity. You give that freedom to the person concerned. Give the money value.
फिर market prices को भी
Of
आप
course.
regulate करोगे?
क्यों रेगुलेट करना है? डिमांड सप्लाई अपने आप रेगुलेट करती है, आप क्या क्या रेगुलेट कर लोगे?
Demand supply तो
आप अगर सोचें कि हर कमोडिटी का प्राइस सरकार करेगी तो फॉरगेट अबाउट इट, फॉरगेट.
You can adjust the value of the coupon.
आप जिस समय
अजय?
अनियन 80 रुपए किलो जाता है, सरकार फट आ जाती है. जिस समय 10 रुपए बिक रहा होता है, कोई नहीं आता.
दो पॉलिटिक्स में है वो अखबार नहीं है.
Not having a conversation. It's a
Yeah, please ask a question.
Yeah, please ask
Ajay,
a
you have a
question.
question?
Sir, you've had
Because
experience.
I'm going to close this session.
So you had experience with working with Niti Aayog, with the Planning Commission, with the Prime Minister's Office, CACP, Ministry of Agriculture. Which ministry do you think is most important for changing, is today, not hypothetically, for benefiting farmers, or not even benefiting, impacting farmers' lives today? And does the Ministry of Agriculture have any relevance to the budget allocations, or how the money is spent, or changing farmer livelihoods?
Ministry of Agriculture's allocation out of the budget, including fisheries and animal husbandry, is less than 3% of the budget. And agriculture contributes 17%, whatever, 16-17% of GDP and 46% of the workforce. So that is the relevance of Agriculture Ministry. Fertilizer Ministry is more important than Agriculture Ministry. I told you that is getting 2 lakh crores. Okay, and they have nothing to do with farmers. So you need to merge these two first. First thing is get fertilizer under the Agriculture Minister, because fertilizer subsidies for the farmers. That is the first thing that you need to do. Then of course you need to streamline whether you want to give directly cash transfer to them and free up the prices, or you want some limits, how much everybody can buy. There are people buying and making all these nitrate content and ammonia and whatnot. So who is buying, where it is going, we have hardly any clue. So I think there is a lot to be done on the fact. I would say Finance Ministry can do a lot and they understand it better, right? But for the votes, Finance Ministry, easiest thing is give those free, de do kuch 10,000 de do, 20,000 de do. So if that is the culture, 80% of the resources going in agri-food space are going through doles and subsidies. Yeah. At least those which are going directly as income transfer, PM Kisan, is not distorting the market. So that's the only benefit. But that was 6,000 rupees in 2019, it is 6,000 rupees today. What is the real value of it? So I think if you put all these subsidies together and give it direct income support, it will go directly to their accounts. The rest of the things you leave it, I would say 90%, 95% things have to be run on market forces. If you think government has to run everything and control the price of everything, I'm sorry, I'm on a very different wicket on that. The sector that is growing fastest within agriculture, fishery, has no MSP.
Horticulture has no MSP.
Horticulture,
Milk has no MSP.
milk has no MSP. They are growing 3 times faster than other crops. So we have to learn out of that.
Okay, I think it's important to have different voices. It's important to have different arguments. I think that's the way that we have always held these dialogues. I think all of you will go back with some points to think about. And to answer Dr. Ratin Roy's question, every time we put up these proposals in any cabinet, be it state or the center, the answer is, election hame ladna hai, aapko nahi. So every time we talk about rationalization, in fact the first SSP rationalization happened, that was the smallest component. The idea was, let's get 1 foot inside the door. That might open up finally to urea. It didn't. It happened for SSP, but we said, okay, freeze the subsidy, let the prices float. That was a simple thing. And you keep adjusting the subsidy if you're uncomfortable with whatever, but don't freeze the price and keep on increasing the subsidy. That was the proposal. But it didn't go through very much. It stopped short of urea. And of course, there are other issues in urea pricing, etc., that he knows, I know. That's a separate story altogether. But today, Ashok, Ramesh and was saying that looking at the whole food systems approach, we may have to look at repurposing some of these subsidies and also taking some of the larger sustainability nutrition questions on board and do a different complete overall of what, of course, it would be a lot more economic sense. But what is politically acceptable and feasible given the current thing, and how does it, as you said, sell it to the people? I would always believe that you can't do a surgical strike with these things. You need to probably face it a little politically feasible, socially acceptable kind of things, and then push it forward. So probably there's a lot more work on the systems approach that we need to look at.
Can I say half?
Sure.
You know, politically, it can be sold as a win-win situation. And today we are lucky that Prime Minister has such a reach, and he is one of the best marketeers in terms of gas cylinders and all that, those who don't deserve, they can return and all that. It's only a question of at what time they give it a high priority, because it needs preparation. It can't be done overnight. You need at least 6 months to 1 year preparation. And then you sell it that I'm doing it for you. Involve them. And this is going to benefit. I'm giving you 40,000 crores is not reaching. It's not a small sum, and it's annual feature. So if you give a priority and then you have a strategy well planned, then I think you can do it. Good for the country, good for your votes.
All the best, Ashok. Thank you very much.